2026 season is officially underway. Welcome to this year's first regular season episode of Sports Day Rangers. I'm John Blake.
I'm Evan Grant.
And Evan, the Rangers as this podcast hits on Friday, the Rangers will have opened the season in Philadelphia, and they're off today, and then they'll play 5 straight days on the road to conclude this first road trip.
Yes, John, and I think that there's a lot to be said about the start of the schedule, but the most important date for folks right now is that Friday, April 3rd, the Rangers will have their big home opener at Globe Life Field in Arlington.
And that opening day roster, which causes you so much angst every year for 6 weeks, really not a lot of surprises on it. When it came down to it, Andrew McCutchen made the team after a great showing in his 2 weeks of spring training. The coolest thing probably being Skip Schumaker's moment in telling Carter Baumler on the mound on Monday night.
Yeah, that was super cool. And we can talk a little bit more about that. But I do want to tell you, John, that, we've got a pretty special guest here for our Opening Day Rangers podcast. We're going to talk the World Baseball Classic one more time because our guest is former Rangers catcher Robinson Chirinos, who served as the bench coach for the Venezuelan team this past year's WBC, which, of course, the Venezuelans won. He's also a special assistant with the Baltimore Orioles. And so maybe we can get a preview of the Rangers' second opponent of the year.
And in the archives in Arlington, we started the first part of opening day moments last week. And today we'll take a look at some opening day moments in the 21st century. And I believe Evan has probably covered each one of those. So we'll get his input on some of these great moments.
Yeah.
So great.
A lot of great moments, some not so great moments. But I missed 2 of opening days in that stretch. One was I was part-timing it as as somebody once called me, a failed columnist.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And then the other year I got ill, and it just so happened that was the year that Yu Darvish took a perfect game into the 9th inning. So lots of great memories to go over. But also, let's remember, you guys can reach out to us on X with any Rangers questions or comments. I'm at Evan_P_Grant. And he is, as always, at Ranger Blake. And if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, if this is the first time listening to it, please give us a little subscription and a like.
Bottom of the 9th, bases loaded. Here comes Jimmy Dale from Baker Brothers Plumbing, AC, and Electrical.
Thanks, Chuck. When your home pitches curveballs, Baker Brothers knocks it out of the park.
Home run, Baker Brothers. Incredible.
As the official home service partner of your Texas Rangers, we're offering $300 off a tank or tankless water heater.
Another winning call. Visit callbakernow.com or dial 214-342-1171 today.
Baker Brothers.
Great service.
And as we're recording this on the day before opening day, with the opener late on Thursday afternoon.
You're ruining all the magic, John. The magic of broadcasting.
I know, but we can't talk about opening day. But the final roster, which, of course, writers spend weeks in spring training trying to speculate. What do you think of the way the opening day roster was constructed? Not a whole lot of surprises, I guess.
No. For me, based on what I saw in spring training, there were no surprises. I mean, the biggest uncertainty came down to the last guy on the bench between McCutchen and Mark Canha. And I've been informed today that Mark Canha is going to stay in the organization now. So I assume he will go to Round Rock. For the foreseeable future. A major league job may very well come open for him in the next week, but this gives him a place to continue to stay and to train. Also, it gives Mark, a noted foodie, whose actual Instagram handle is Big League Foodie, gives him a chance to dive into the Austin food scene. So I know he'll like that. And then the other real question was pretty much the last spot in the bullpen. And when it all got said and done, when the Rangers went out and got Jalen Beeks as another major league proven veteran, it came down to Carter Baumler, the Rule 5 pick, versus somebody who was going to be optionable like Luis Crivello. And for the time being, the Rangers have chosen to go with Carter Baumler. And John, I don't know. I know you've got a fine list of all the Rule 5 picks in Rangers history. I don't know that there's been a Rule 5 pick who had as strong a spring showing as Carter Baumler did with 9 1/3 innings without allowing an earned run. So hopefully he'll last a little bit longer than Brett DeGeist did and leave a more memorable time in Rangers history. But it was really cool to watch Baumler on the mound and Skip Schumaker roll out there with 2 outs in the 5th. You know, Baumler had come in to pitch the 5th against Kansas City on Monday night. Got the first 2 guys out on ground balls, something he's done a really good job of this year. And here comes Skip Schumaker out of the dugout. Nobody's warming up. He's only faced 2 batters, not even the minimum for a pitching change. The umpires are confused. Everybody is confused that Skip goes to the mound, and then he goes to the kid and says, "You're not coming out, relax, but you made the team." And everybody on the field felt it. And the guys who were on the mound with him, the infielders, all said it was just a really cool moment. You know, Danny Jansen used the words pure joy for the kid. And I had texted Skip that yesterday because, you know, his definition of a good teammate is somebody who feels joy at the success of others. And so I thought it was a great coda to spring training where he tried to establish these Rangers being good teammates for one another, to have that play out on the field.
Well, speaking of the bullpen, again, there is no real set-in-stone closer. It's going to be kind of a mix and match. How is that? How do you see that kind of playing out here early on in the season?
Listen, I think Chris Martin pitched well. He pitched well yesterday against Kansas City, or Tuesday as we're talking. And he'll get, in all likelihood, he'll get the first shot, though. As we record this, if by some chance the 9th inning on Thursday had the Rangers facing both Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, it's entirely possible that Robert Garcia would get that. And so I do think that Skip early on will look at some mitching. I'm having a little trouble talking, John. He will look at some mixing and matching based on the lanes and what lefties or what righty he's got coming up that inning. I think the one thing that I'm really going to be curious to see is how well Chris Martin bounces back. I don't know that he's a guy that can go back-to-back days like you would like to have a closer do a whole lot. And certainly that's not imperative in the first month of the season, as you're trying not to overwork guys right away. But I think that's the one thing that holds him back from being a more reliable option at closer. If Garcia can be effective, there's an opportunity there for him to carve out a more significant role. And then after that, as we saw in 2023, you know, it just kind of, you go around the room until you hit on somebody who can give you a little bit of a lift. And in 23, that was Will Smith before the Rangers traded for Aroldis Chapman. Who it would be this year, who knows? I think the one potential surprise candidate might be Cole Winn, as he moves into a higher leverage role anyway. And, you know, we didn't mention Jake Latz losing the 5th starter job to Kamar Rocker, though I don't know if I would call it losing per se. I think the Rangers all along thought that their best deployment of talent was if Kamar was in the rotation and Jake was available in a multitude of roles, including potentially as closer in the bullpen. And so ultimately that's what took place.
So, again, we're talking after opening day. The Phillies are pitching 2 lefties in that series. Again, there's been talk about Jock Peterson. Do you play Josh Smith? Do you play Evan Carter? What is Skip Schumaker's early season look at going to be about against playing those kind of left-handed batters against tough left-handed pitchers?
I think, look, you know, if you look at the 2 lefties that the Phillies threw out there or will throw out by the time the weekend is done, Christopher Sanchez and Jesus Luzardo, you've got 2 guys who got Cy Young Award votes last year in the National League. Rangers have the first 40 games are chock full of games in which they're likely to face guys who got Cy Young votes last year. But if you're looking for a guideline, I guess my guideline would be I don't expect Evan Carter to play against any of the lefties who showed up or start against any of the lefties who showed up in Cy Young Award balloting, Beyond that, I think there's the opportunity for him to get some chances. What he does with those chances will largely dictate how the rule is going forward. If he's successful against lefties and he stays healthy as the year goes on, he may get more chances. If he doesn't, it's going to look more and more like a straight platoon. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at things. If it's a 1 or a 2 that you're facing who happens to be left-handed, in my estimation, probably you don't see Carter that day unless it's more of a junk kind of throw, a junk baller guy. And I think the Rangers have some nice options based on the way spring training played out for what they do at both the outfield and if they decide that that's a day they want to give Josh Smith a day off. Both Sam Haggerty and Ezekiel Duran can play the outfield. Both can also play second base. Duran had a really strong final 2 weeks of spring training. He needs to carry that over. Haggerty does stuff to get on base and make stuff happen. So those are 2 fine options. I could see plenty of days where you see Haggerty in a corner and you see Duran at second base, or the other way around, where both of them are in the lineup. And I do think early on you're going to see McCutchen at DH against the majority of lefties.
Last one here on roster going into the season. At the catcher position with Danny Jansen, Kyle Higashioka, are we going to see a fairly strict platoon? Is it going to be certain guys catching certain pitchers? What is Skip Schumaker thinking about that as the season begins?
I haven't gotten a real clear picture of that, mostly because, Kyle missed a bunch of time during spring training with his back, and I think that right now is going to be the predominant deciding factor on playing time more than splits or anything like that or personal catchers. Guys love throwing to Kyle Higashioka. They loved throwing to him last year. I think they really like Danny Jansen as well. I will say this, Kyle made 3 challenges from behind the plate during spring training on ball strike calls, got all 3 of them right. So he knows his strike zone, right? But I do think that from my perspective, early in the year, it may go Jansen, Higashioka, Jansen. And, if there's one extra start here or there, it would go to Jansen over Higashioka.
And let's just talk a little bit about the schedule, because we alluded to it at the beginning of the podcast. It is very unusual for the Rangers open at home the majority of the time, it seems like, at the start of the season, at least in the last decade or so. They have a 2-series road trip to 2 tough places on the East Coast where weather can be an issue. Philadelphia and Baltimore in late March and April can be a little dicey. It's just the second time since 2006 that the club has opened with 2 road series, the other being 2008 when the club went to Seattle and the Angels and split that six-game trip. But for the Rangers to go to the East Coast and start with two series, very unusual, and it's imperative they get off to a good start.
Yeah, John, I've made no shortage of comments about the first 40 games of the schedule, which are daunting to say the least. Went back and looked at it this morning on my flight up to Philadelphia and totaled up the composite winning percentage for all those teams over the course of the 40 games or over the 2025 season. And you're talking about playing a team that was a 529 team or the equivalent of an 86 win team every night for the first 40 games. Wow. They will play the World Series, the 2-time World Series champions on the road. They are playing 3 of the 4 of the final 4 teams, obviously with the Dodgers, the Phillies, and then they have 2 series with Seattle. They have, I believe, a quarter of their first 40 games will be against teams that likely will throw a guy who finished in the top 9 in the Cy Young balloting in 2025. So it's a very, very tough schedule, not to mention the fact that, of those first 40 games, a slight majority of them are on the road, and then the road percentage really does go up in May and June, though the Rangers get a huge advantage in terms of games at home in the second half. So I think those first 40 games are going to be about survival. And I will just say this, John, I think it's going to test the Rangers in a good way because I do think there's going to be some frustrating games against some really good pitchers, and that's going to test the process of how they're trying to approach plate appearances. It's going to create some frustrations, and that's going to test the clubhouse culture and the unity and all of that. So if they get through that, I think they're going to be in a really good position to make a strong run over the final 3 quarters of the year. You can't win the pennant in the first 40 games, but you sure as heck could lose it, and they've got to avoid that.
And it's also, I mean, I hate to, because baseball is such a long season, but the optics are big. And for your fan base, for everybody getting behind the team, you really do want to get off to that good start. And we'll see what happens. Like I said, I've been on many early season road trips to the East Coast over the years, and it's an interesting challenge, and we'll see how it goes.
I'll just say this, that, opening day and the first series or first 2 series are mostly about optics. Obviously, you want to play well at your home opener. But if you go back to last year, opening day against Boston told you everything you needed to know about the Rangers for 2026. They took 2 walks in the first 2 innings, no walks after that. Right. I think over the final 7 innings, Boston pitchers threw 91 pitches total. The Rangers were 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position, and then extrapolate that over the first week when they were hitting 192. And then by the end of those first 40 games, they were last in the big leagues in hitting. And so it can tell you where your team is going to go. And I just feel like the Rangers, based on the spring training I saw, are in a better position to handle those low-scoring games this year than they were a year ago.
Well, our guest this week is Robinson Chirinos. Played 11 years in the big leagues as a catcher, 2 different stints with the Rangers. But coming off a stint as the bench coach for Venezuela in the World Baseball Classic, which staged I guess you'd call it an upset of the United States in the finals. And now with the Baltimore Orioles, and we'll talk to Robbie next. Our guest on this week's episode of SportsDay Rangers, a familiar face to Ranger fans, Robinson Chirinos, caught 11 years in the major leagues and caught the most games of any Rangers catcher for 5 straight seasons from 2014 to 2018. Best season, I guess, with the Rangers was 2018, 18 homers and 65 RBIs. Now with the Baltimore Orioles, was their bench coach last year, serves as a special assistant in player development now. But certainly most recently, the most important, the bench coach of Team Venezuela in the 2023 World Baseball Classic, which pulled off an incredible victory, their first WBC championship ever. So, Robbie, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, John. Hi, Evan. Excited to jump in the car with you guys and talk about baseball, about Rangers, WBC. It was a great time of my life, John. Be able to represent my country. I think you guys both know how proud I feel when it comes to represent my country. I was part of the Texas Ranger back in 17 when I had my first opportunity to ever wear a Venezuela jersey across my chest.
Yep.
So excited to do it now as a coach. It was a blessed run. I have to thank Omar, who allowed me to be in the process to create a whole team. Not only the players, but also I was part of interview coaches for the WBC, choosing the right people to be part of the team who's going to represent Venezuela this year. And a lot of hours, a lot of time investing in the team, but everything got paid off when we become the first time ever a Venezuela win a WBC. So it was a great moment, a moment I'm going to remember forever, John.
I think it was really great after the game when Omar brought his entire coaching staff up to the press conference podium with him and gave you guys so much credit. because the schedule certainly did not work in your favor. The United States had an extra day off. You guys had to play and come back the next night to play the championship game. And he talked about how you guys stayed up to scout that until the wee hours of the morning. So tell us a little bit about how that all it was kind of a whirlwind for you guys.
Yes, a lot of credit to Omar. I think he mentioned in the interview room that was a dream he had a few years back where he won the WBC and he had all his coaches behind him. So when he was going out to the interview room, he called me and he's like, Robbie, get all the coaches. I want everybody in the room. I want this dream to be reality now that we world champions. So it was great move by Omar, and we're excited to be behind him and support what he did. And yeah, I think not only Venezuela, I think every team in the WBC have so much challenge. John, you guys know covered this tournament. I mean, you playing a team, a different team every night. If you advance all the way to the championship the way we did it, I can speak about the night after the game we beat Italy. Omar told me in his office, he's like, Robinson, we're gonna meet in. We have a room in the 7th floor in the hotel. He told me, let's send a text. We meeting when we get to the hotel. And it was late. It was around 1, almost 1 in the morning when we got to the hotel. We discussed our lineup who was gonna face. We're gonna face a righty for Italy. We're looking numbers, a split, guys they faced Nola in the past and create our lineup going against Italy. Omar left, I think, the room around 2:30, 3 in the morning. I stayed with a scout all the way to 5 in the morning, working on the pitching side, creating, the report to present to the players next day when we play. Sorry, when we play the U.S., we were going report against the U.S. So I went to my room around 5 in the morning, and then I think I got back to the room around 10:30, 11 in the morning, and all our scouts were 4 people. They were still sitting in the room working in the computer, putting the report up for us to be ready for the coaches meeting at 1:30. So that tell you the commitment, the challenge for WBC, but also the pride of representing your country. And I think Omar mentioned in the interview room how proud he feels for the analytic department. And I mentioned in few of my interview, I also take the chance to thank those guys. Andres Antonini, who is a guy who worked for the Texas Ranger.
Right.
He was part.
Yep.
He was part of our group in the analytic department. A guy who spent hours not only in the tournament, but preview to the tournament, John. These guys prepare everything for us to go out there, have the information to make the right decision, and everything got paid off. So thank you for those guys for the time they invest in the team.
Robbie, and we did exchange texts among the thousands of texts you got afterwards, but I needed to congratulate you, and I didn't. Something gets lost in text that you need to hear it in somebody's voice. But all through the 9th inning, I'm watching you, and I just am trying to imagine what's going on inside your heart, not just inside your head. Can you put it into words as somebody who is native Venezuelan, who has been involved in Venezuelan baseball as you are, who has had the issues that you've had in Venezuela over the last decade? What did that 9th inning mean to you?
Evan, thank you for the text. I got back to you. I think it was the next day.
I was afraid to text you. I figured you were getting blown up.
I did. I think I went to my phone around 3, 4 in the morning when I kind of like slowed down after the win. And I probably have over 500 messages between WhatsApp and text. It was unbelievable. But if I have to choose a word, probably gratitude is the one I lean into, Evan, John, because I grew up in Venezuela. That's where my love for the game came growing up in Venezuela, playing the game. I have so many people helping me get into a position I was as a player to development, came here to the US and went through my minor league career and be able to achieve my dream to be a major league player and to know what that win mean to not only us as a baseball people, but the whole country. You guys know Venezuela. Baseball is the number one sport in Venezuela. I think the Venezuela teams, they were in debt to the whole Venezuela people because we know the talent we produce in Venezuela, but we were not able to even be in the final before. We got to the semifinal back in 2009, 17 years ago, without having a chance to win a championship. And I think, you can call it God perfect timing. Everything's going on in the country. Uh, the team dying to get a championship, the one we did. And I think uh, there is gonna be years to come for us to reflect what we did. First time we qualified for the Olympic, never been in the Olympic before. I was in the running for the Olympic team back in 21 when I signed with the Yankees. I was able to represent Venezuela, chasing the dream to be an Olympic for the first time. We were close, probably like nice out away to be in Tokyo 2022. We got beat by the Dominican Republic. They advanced, they represent their country in the Olympic. So when you see the big picture, going to the Olympic, winning the first WBC ever, it's a dream come true, and I'm blessed to be part of that team, a team who everybody's gonna remember forever.
The the other thing I wanted to ask you one thing from a baseball perspective about that, because you guys did spend so much time going over all the matchups. And I talked to the losing bench coach from Team USA, and he said all the same things about how hard Team USA worked. But the one decision that I thought was a little bit surprising, at least on the surface, was that after Harper hits the home run, you guys faced Garrett Whitlock in the ninth, and he had been lights out all tournament. Were you guys expecting to face Mason Miller there, or did you think that it would be Whitlock?
We were thought Whitlow was gonna come in. I know, based on our own experience, uh, teams don't want their closest to come on a tie game. We went through the same challenge in that day of the game. Omar got off from the room where we were having our meeting to talk to the Cubs GM because uh, we don't know if Palencia was going to be available to close that night. It was the first time he was going to go back to back. So he left the room, came back, and when Omar came back to the room, the whole room got silent. And Victor Martinez went, "All right, what we got?" And Omar was like, "Yeah, we have Palencia for tonight." And it was huge for us. And I know the other team was gonna be in the same position we were. My bigger concern when they tied again, it was like, if we don't score, we don't have Palencia to go on the tie game to pitch in the night. And that's why they went early on. They made a decision and we were able to score and win a championship. And I think that's the challenge of WBC March. I think as a player representing 17 and 23, you don't know how much work and how much stuff you have to do as a staff to navigate the WBC based on the restriction you have in pitches. It was one game against Italy, the Jesus, our lefty, who he made a team with the Detroit Tigers a couple days ago. He was only available to pitch an inning under 25, and he made a pitch on pitch 25 for a ground ball for a double play. So we have somebody up. If we don't make that double play, we're gonna take him out because he was not gonna be available after 25 pitches. So it's a lot you have to navigate on the WBC. Tip my cap to Omar the way he handled the whole, staff restriction calling. He was a GM, but at the same time he was a manager. He did so much work, and definitely he deserved, being the first time manager who win the championship for our country.
Hey, I know one other thing I wanted to ask you about this was I don't know how much of a role you played in actually finalizing the roster, but I had talked to Luis Crivello here um, right after the win, and he said that he had been called twice, once at the end of the offseason and once just right before the tournament started to see about his availability. And he said he wanted to stay with the Rangers to try and win a spot on the roster. And look, he pitched well enough to have earned a spot on the roster. He will pitch in the big leagues this year. But what do you know how you guys would have envisioned using Curvello and what you thought about his ability to help you?
Yeah, no, I was part of every decision when it come to build the roster. Omar made me part of the whole uh, operation, building the team. I was in every core. We are GN, Omar, our scouting group to choose our players, and we right into players like him, where they're not stable in the major league, and they also have a personal decision to make, like the one he makes. With one hand in our staff, I think he was gonna be a great asset for us to have in the bullpen. But we understand those decisions. We can judge them. I know Omar talked to him and wish him the best. I know he's a major league pitcher and he's gonna be in the big league anytime soon. But that's the hard to build a team going into a WBC. And I believe especially like countries like the U.S., DR, Venezuela, who have so many options to choose. It's hard to build a team and have everybody commit because everybody's in a different position based on their career, and we have to understand that some people can get mad based on those decisions because it's like it's your country. But in the end, myself, Omar, who's been in the game a long time, understanding uh, you go you entire life to get to the position these players are. Like, we can't judge them if they choose to stay with the team trying to make a spot in the roster. So uh, I think Omar said it really well before we start WBC. The people we have here is the right people, is the people who choose to be here, is the people we believe is gonna help this team. And it was a team who win the first WBC for the country. So it was definitely the right people to be in that team for sure.
I don't think you'll have any problem getting him for the 29 team, just in case you were wondering. I think he's fully on board at this point.
Yeah, and I think every player, Hen and all the guys who choose to stay in their spin training, they're proud to be, Venezuela or American or Mexican, but it's a tough decision. It's a family decision. It's a decision we all have to respect, and hopefully we can count on him for the 2029 WBC.
Well, I wouldn't. I don't want to. I want to move on a little bit to give you a chance to talk about your time in Texas while we have you on. So the trade, you come over here after the 2012 season when you'd had the concussion that knocked you out the entire season. How did your career change when you joined the Rangers? I guess that's the way I'd put it.
Yeah, John, I think when JD called me after spin training 2013, I remember the word exactly according to what he told me. He's like, Robinson, welcome to Texas. Been trying to trade for you for a few years now. You a Texas Ranger. I know when he say those words to me, John, I know I got to the right place. I know I was gonna be in the organization who want me here, the organization who's gonna give me the chance to become an everyday player. And thank God I got traded to the Texas Ranger. I still live here. I'm here right now in Dallas. This is home for me. My boys grew up here in the city. The Texas Ranger, they were so good to me and my family. And I can't thanks the Ranger enough to what they did to me and my family here in my time with the Rangers. So uh, become an everyday player after Soto got injured in 14. I took the opportunity. Uh, Benji Molina, who was our first base coach that year for us, I know he's a guy who speak about me behind doors to the coaches, JD, in the front office, and he heard me allow understanding to be a everyday catcher in the big league and help my pitching staff. I also value the time he invests in myself to become a better player and become a better catcher. So I enjoy every minute of my time here in Texas, John, Evan.
And Robbie, you spent last year on the bench in Baltimore, and this year you're kind of in a front office role. I know you want to stay involved in the game, and I think you and I have had conversations in the past. And I don't know if it'll be on the bench for Venezuela as the manager someday, but you will manage in the big leagues or in the WBC. How does this role for you work in like the bigger picture for what you want to do long term?
Yeah, I was blessed enough to get back to the game last year or get back to the big league because, after I retired in 23, I was able to manage Venezuela Summer League. Back in 24, I managed a team for 52 games. I was able to go to the Premier 12 with Omar as a bench coach representing Team Venezuela, who was a great tournament for us. And during that tournament, that's when I went through my interview process with the Orioles. Omar, he was already a bench coach in Houston. He heard me so much navigate the interview process where as a bench coach, it's a really hard interview process to go. Uh, Thanks to Omar and everything he did to me during my interview process, because I can say enough, it was a game changing the way he prepared me for the interview. And it was a learning year for me in Baltimore. It was not the year I was expecting to be, like got there, the front office, Brandon High want me there to help him and the players. Uh, he got fired after 6 weeks, so you never want your manager to get fired, especially your first time coaching in the big league. A hard year, a challenge year in my coaching career. I told myself in the end of the year, thank God I went through this in my first year coaching because I don't think I can get any worse.
Yeah.
Everything I went through last year, but we were there for the players. I was there for Hyde. I help him in any way I can. When Tony took over, I was also his right man, trying to help him make the right decision, help the players and the organization. Uh, I think in my position right now, Evan, John, I told myself I want to learn how the front office think. I even told JD back in 24 before I got hired with the Orioles. I saw him in DR working with Tampa Bay. And I told John, I would love to be part of the front office. I want to learn the front office side. What do you guys think? Because I believe it's the part of the game I don't understanding full. You a player, you understand the coaching. I already coach. I know how the coaching think. I don't know 100% how the front office think and how they do what they do on the daily basis. So I believe this year is gonna be a awesome year for my career, learning uh, how those guys navigate the season, what they need to do during the regular season when it comes to moving players, signing players, trading players. So I'm gonna be able to learn on baseball operation in the major league side, but also on player development, where it's something I have passion about. And I think when you combine those two together in my coaching career and player career, I think I'm gonna be a better baseball people when it comes to knowledge of the game, understanding the game, and going forward. I don't know, Evan. I told you in the past, I would love to manage in the big league one day. I don't know if that's what God have for me down the road, but definitely I'm continue to prepare myself, learning the game, understanding the game, every area of the game. And you guys know, I mean, I love this game. This game's been everything in my life, and I want to continue to be attached to the game. And let's see what God have for me and my family down the road. But definitely, I'm going to be close to the game, impacting and helping players. That's something I have in my heart, and you guys know that.
Well, I'll leave you with this. It's funny you mentioned like learning the front office aspect, because we were talking to Skip Schumaker just the other day, and one thing that he brought up was the year that he, between jobs, between the Marlins job and this job, when he was in the Rangers front office, he spent a lot of time trying to understand how the front office manages down, so that when he was a manager, he'd better be able to both use his experience as a player and a coach with what the front office is thinking to bring everybody together. And I think he feels he's much better as a manager now than he was before that year. So I think for your career, it's a great, it's a great learning opportunity. And I think the way you're approaching it is exactly right. You have an opportunity right now to go and kind of audit all of the organization, like you said, from player development to the big leagues in the front office. And it's going to make you just that much more well-rounded as a managerial contender down the road.
Agreed. I think the best manager in the game, understanding well how the front office think, how they work, and they're expecting out of you and out of your team. So I'm looking forward to learn and, uh, get everything I can get from the situation and my position I am right now. And let's see what, baseball and God have for me down the road, Evan, John.
Yeah, well, we'll be looking. We know you're going to do great things. Your time in Texas, it was a pleasure working with you and watching you work and everything, and everything you did in the community. We appreciate the time this afternoon. We really do, Robbie. So thank you, and congratulations again.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Evan. I know you guys know how much I appreciate you both. So it's great talking to you guys, and God bless you and your family.
Well, last week we started talking about opening day memories, and we covered the 20th century, and we're going to cover a few of these in the 21st century. I don't think there's quite as many memorable kind of wacky moments, but I've got a couple of stories, and then I'm going to let Evan kind of weigh in here. I think the last 25 years or so, there have been some opening days of major people looking forward to a debut of a player. And that was no more the case than in 2001 when Alex Rodriguez, the $252 million man, was making his Rangers debut. And the Rangers opened that year in San Juan, Puerto Rico, playing the Toronto Blue Jays at Hiram Bithorn Stadium. It was kind of a homecoming for Ivan Rodriguez. We took the media to his hometown. We had a nice meal, Puerto Rican meal and everything. That was probably the highlight of that trip, because during the opening press conference at the hotel, the manager, Johnny Oates, kind of fell back off the stage as Alex was going by him, which was not a real good look to start off. And then the game, the Rangers lost 8-1, where A-Rod made a very key error, kind of tripped over his shoelace in the field to make an error at shortstop. Evan, what do you remember about that auspicious debut?
What I do remember is, that was part of a 2-game series. The Rangers played an exhibition game and then played the season opener. And I think before the exhibition game, I was in a taxi to Hiram B. Thorne Stadium, and I left my wallet in the taxi, and felt like, well, I'm never going to get back home. But fortunately, I had the receipt, and I called the taxi company, and the cab driver came back and brought me my wallet. And so that resulted in the biggest tip I've ever given anybody. But yeah, that game was just, again, I think another foreshadowing kind of moment of the entire season, and really the entire 3 years of Alex's tenure of the Rangers, tripping over themselves, of everything that could go wrong going wrong. It was just a really lost time in Rangers history, and that game kicked it off. And I obviously Johnny resigned a month into the season, and certainly his health troubles were diagnosed at the end of that year. But you could tell as the 2001 season was kicking off that Johnny Oates was not in great headspace. And it just felt kind of, again, symbolic that he kind of tumbled off of that podium, the chair on that podium at the stadium. That I don't know if he just didn't want to be there. I don't know if he didn't want to put up with all of what was going to go on with Alex, but you could tell right then and there this wasn't going to be a great marriage.
And Andres Galarraga and Ken Caminiti were in that lineup, and they didn't survive the season either. And then, of course, at the end of the year, the Rangers went on to change general managers. Personal note, and then I'll get to 2012. The 2006 opener, I had just gone to work for the Boston Red Sox, and by some circumstance, whatever, the Red Sox opened here. And so my first game as the Red Sox PR head was here, and the Red Sox beat the Rangers 7-3, and it was just kind of surreal for me, because I was going to visiting locker room, place where I'd spent a lot of time, and I hope I was welcomed back warmly. I don't know, but anyway, that was 2006. The other one I wanted to touch on was 2012, when the Rangers opened at home against the Chicago White Sox. This was Robin Ventura's managerial debut with the White Sox, and Ranger fans remember the name Robin Ventura with a lot of angst, obviously. In 1993, there was the incident where Robin charged the mound after Nolan Ryan hit him with a pitch. Robin was booed forever when he came back, but the amazing thing about this was that was Nolan's last season. Nolan and Ventura never spoke in the 19 years or whatever between that game and 2012. And I remember opening day, Nolan came into my office and he said, I think I need to go down and talk to Robin before the game, because he's going to get booed. It's going to be bad. And we arranged it. He went down. And it was one of the nicest gestures I had ever seen. Robin still got booed, but I think it did made him feel better.
Well, that was a nice moment. I'll tell you, the moments that stand out to me are not shining moments. Was it 2014 that somehow the Rangers the opening day starter ended up being
Tanner Scheppers.
I think that was against the Phillies as well.
Yeah, we lost 14-10.
14-10. And it was, again, kind of emblematic of what the season would become.
It was also the game the next year, if you remember, in Oakland, where we were being no-hit into the eighth inning when Ryan Rua finally got our only hit off Sonny Gray. And that was Jeff Bannister's debut, yeah.
And then the other one that obviously stands out for me is 24, when the banner was raised in Arlington, and the crowd finally got to see what they had so wanted to see. It was that day I was standing on the field, obviously, as you guys raised the banner, which may or may not have gone up a little bit crooked, but we won't talk about that too much. But I'm standing on the field before that ceremony, and all of a sudden from behind me, I hear this, "Hey, hey." And I look around, and it is the 43rd president of the United States of America, and he's beckoning me with a finger. "Come here." And I go over there, and the president, George W. Bush, proceeds to tell me, "Hey, you're good at what you do." And I don't think I have ever buckled in the knees any stronger than when he said that. And it was really a compliment, and that is a memory. It's a personal memory, but it's something that will last with me a lifetime. Somebody actually got a picture of me bending down to talk to him, and because he was in the owner's suite, kind of below ground. And I just it's one of those moments that's just surreal to me.
We've neglected to mention the season opener in 2020, which ended up being on July 24th. And the Rangers actually won that game. They won it 1-0 behind Lance Lynn in front of attendance of 0 and about 2,000 cardboard cutouts known as Doppel Rangers.
The Doppel Rangers.
Very weird season indeed was 2020. So with that, we're done looking back at opening day. Now it's time to move into the season, and we thank you for joining us on this week's edition of Sports Day Rangers.
You can find all our coverage on the Dallas Morning News at dallasnews.com. You can find me on Twitter. Obviously, we've got this podcast. We've got the Sports Day Insider podcast, and we've got my hopefully weekly Ranger streams on YouTube. So keep following along, and we look forward to having you with us all season.
And we'll talk to you next week.